Welcome to the BizGrowMojo podcast, the podcast where we get into real talk about business ownership, growth, marketing, learning lessons, and advice with real business owners. Here's your host, Ryan Amon. Now, let's get down to business.
I'm pumped to get this rolling. Let's go. In today's episode, we're diving into a business model that proves you don't need thousands of acres to build a successful farm. Jana Yockey and her husband run Garlic Gods, a certified seed garlic operation in Idaho that's turned just 6 acres into a thriving business shipping nationwide. From starting with hand planting a half an acre that left them crawling on the ground and exhausted, to building a business that can generate $20,000 to $25,000 per half acre, Jana shares the real story of modern small-scale farming. We'll explore the challenges of white rot disease that can destroy soil for up to 50 years, why most garlic farmers stay small by choice, and how the pandemic actually boosted their online sales. Whether you're thinking about starting your own agricultural venture or just curious about the business side of specialty farming, this conversation is packed with practical insights and honest numbers that most farmers never share publicly. Let's jump into it. All right. Well, Jana, I'm glad to have you on the podcast. I appreciate you joining us. Let's just get right into it. You've got a very interesting business model. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay. I'm Jana Yockey. My husband and I own Garlic Gods, and we grow seed garlic in Idaho. We're in a white rot quarantine area, so we are certified disease-free, white rot-free seed garlic that we ship all over the United States to home gardeners and garden centers.
That's a very interesting business model. What inspired you to get into this business?
Well, I grew up on a farm, and so did my husband, and we met in Florida. My dad was still here in Idaho, and he decided to retire and sell his farm, and I begged him not to, so we moved back to Idaho, thinking we were going to have a bunch of land to work and farm, and we ended up with 14 acres that he kept for me to use, and so we just had just a small acreage, and so we rented some land for a couple years, and we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. We did a bunch of different stuff, tried farmers markets, we tried greenhouses, we tried a bunch of different things and looked at a bunch of different models for small acreage. And then we were helping a friend of ours move water, and he said he had a friend who grew garlic and he was retiring and we should talk to him. And that's what we did. We went and talked to him, and then we decided, you know what, we can do this on small acreage. And most garlic farmers in the United States that sell seed garlic are small farmers. Most of them are between a half an acre and 2 acres. And we just decided to keep that and try to grow. And this year we planted 6 acres. Yeah, so last year we had 7 acres, which I know doesn't sound like a lot. And people always, all these big farmers always say, how can we make money off that? But it's just such a niche product. So, yeah.
I mean, what do you think the average, farmer is farming? How many acres? I mean, there's some big ones around here. I mean, I'm sure that varies, but it's amazing to be able to, run a business in any type of farming with that, small of an amount of land.
Right. So I don't know what the average is. I know that, back in the day when my grandpa was a farmer, everybody had 80-acre farms. But nowadays I would say if you don't have 1,000 or more acres, you're probably not going to make it without another source of income as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the average would be, but it's small.
Is this all you guys do then? You just grow seed garlic?
We just grow seed garlic. Yep. So we bought a farm in 2022, and it's 64 acres, 55 farmable acres. And so we have our garlic, and then we have cover crops. So we're just rotating so that we're on at least a 5-year rotation before the garlic goes back into the same ground again.
Wow. So if you don't rotate it, would or is that pretty much required to be able to get a good yield?
So they say that you should rotate it at least every 3 years. However, we did talk to one guy that grew garlic up in Fairfield, and he had, I want to say his property was maybe 3/4 of an acre, and he grew onions and garlic only. And so as soon as he would harvest his garlic, he would put it in cover crop and then replant. But that's not suggested. It's always suggested to rotate those and at least have at least 3 years before you put it back in the same place.
Interesting. So maybe if you were to build your soil up well enough, maybe you could kind of go against that recommendation potentially.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But garlic is garlic and onions. The allium family is something that has a lot of disease. So if you overwork that land or get a disease in there, you're not going to get it out. White rot specifically can last in your ground basically anywhere from 20 to 50 years.
Oh wow!
And so that's why we're in a quarantine area, because so many onions are grown in Idaho, and to protect the ground, everybody has to be inspected and tested to make sure you don't have disease. So again, if you're putting certified seed stock in your ground and it doesn't have disease, potential of that coming in is probably way less than if you did not have those requirements.
And so what happens if you get that type of rot? Can you not sell anything, or is it just the seed that you can't sell?
Okay, so the white rot is a disease that basically makes your garlic turn to mush. It'll make your onions turn to mush. So and it stays in the soil, so you wouldn't be able to use the garlic for eating. You wouldn't be able to use it for seed. You wouldn't be able to use it, period. In fact, it needs to be burned. And then that ground, you wouldn't be able to plant anything in that family. Onions, garlic, until that was out of the soil. And again, they don't know specifically when it's going to come out or how long it would take, but the average they're saying is 20 to 50 years. Crops in there, like you could plant grains and potatoes and beets and stuff like that. I don't think white rot would affect that. But as far as that onion family, you would not be able to.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what were some of the early kind of breakthroughs and wins that you had when you were getting this business going?
Well, so our first year that we planted and harvested, we did farmers markets. We were trying to just grow up our seed stock before we started selling it online. So the first year that we actually had our website was 2020, and the pandemic hit. And actually, the pandemic was really good for us because people were at home, stuck at home. So a lot of people got into gardening. And so our first year selling online, we had a lot of success just because people were looking for something to do. And
Wow.
so that helped us start. And then we've just kind of grown from there. A lot of word of mouth, emails, and just kind of working the same kind of market that we did back then.
Yeah. So what are some of the marketing things that you found that have worked best? Your website, obviously. What type of things are you doing to, get people to your website? And what else have you found that worked, if anything?
Okay, so we do a lot of Instagram marketing. That's where I've tried Facebook marketing, but that didn't seem to work as well. I've done Google ads. Those work, but they're more expensive, so we tend to not do that as much. And then with all the past clients that we've had, or customers that we've had, we do a lot of email marketing. So we send out a lot of information about when to plant, when to harvest, all the stuff. And then we ask for referrals or get orders again from repeat customers. I've been working on my website, and I'm really technically challenged, but I've done the whole website myself, and I'm trying to learn. So I'm trying to work on that SEO, writing blogs and trying to get that in there. 2 years ago, I had a magazine contact me, so we did an article with them. This spring, we had the local news in Twin Falls ask us to be in their little ag in Idaho clip, so we did that. And then I tried contacting some other magazines and whatnot to get more information out about our farm in publications. So
Cool.
still working on that.
Yeah.
And I think I'm supposed to be in the Farm Bureau magazine in August, but I haven't seen an actual write up for that, so I'm not sure if that's going to come out or not.
Okay. So have you seen a lot of organic traffic that turned into business from your website then?
Yes, I think so. So a lot of the times when I look up my website to see where my traffic is coming from, a lot of it is organic, and I think part of it is the name Garlic Gods. So when
Yeah.
people see that, they remember it versus so and so's farm. You know, it's harder to remember a name of somebody's farm where Garlic Gods kind of sticks in the mind. And when we first started our business, my husband said that we should go with Garlic Gods. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. You know, I don't know if people find offense to that. But that's what we went with. And I think it's worked out. A name that people remember is key.
Yeah. I love the logo too. It's great. You
Uh,
gotta, everybody's got to check that out. It's very cool.
oh yeah, my father-in-law actually drew that, and then we had it we sent it into a company that does graphic design, and they cleaned it up for us.
Yeah, very cool. Yes, that's amazing. You're getting a lot of traffic from the internet. That's where I found you guys. And I had no idea that you were actually. I ordered some garlic because I was thinking about. I was kind of doing some research, trying to figure out something that I might be able to do with a little bit of extra. I've got about a half an acre that I was just trying to figure out something maybe could make a little bit of money, kind of a side hustle. And that's where I kind of got looking into garlic, and it seemed like it could be something that you could potentially do on a smaller amount of land.
Yeah.
And that's where I found you guys was just through that. And I was like, this is really cool. This is, there's a lot of varieties that are, pretty expensive per pound for the gourmet garlic. Like, what type of prices do you typically get for most of your seed garlic per pound?
So we charge about the same per pound, uh, across the board. So our varieties, they're all pretty much the same. I think our soft necks we've raised by 50 cents, because we're sold out of a lot of them. So we don't have as many soft necks. So I'm trying to get people to purchase the hard necks more this year. But we keep all our prices the same. A lot of websites, I'm always looking on people's websites, seeing their prices. Um, we can sell quarter pound, half pound, or full pound, and our quarter pounds are $10.50 to $11 for a quarter pound, $16.50 to $17 for a half pound, and $26 to $27 for a full pound. And I watch because I don't want to be the lowest guy, but I definitely don't want to be the highest guy. And there are people that are selling quarter pounds for $18 and full pounds for $39.
Oh, wow.
So it's, if you have less land, so like you said, if you had a quarter acre, a half an acre, so you are limited in the amount you could sell, those higher prices would go further because you'd probably still sell out. But because we grow so much garlic, we're trying to keep our prices a little bit lower for people.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, that's interesting. Does the seed garlic typically sell for more than, say, I'm just growing garlic to try to sell it to restaurants or something like that? Does it typically go for more, or is it about the same?
Seed garlic goes for more for sure.
Okay.
So yeah, so the seed garlic is 2 inches in diameter or larger, where I mean, you could obviously eat any of our garlic or plant any of the garlic. The smaller bulbs we sell as culinary garlic, and we sell that at $10 a pound. Although we don't really put that on our website until after we've cured and cleaned our garlic and see how much weight we have for seed versus for culinary. And then, yeah, so all of our garlic's grown exactly the same, but when you're selling it for food, it is cheaper than if you're selling it for seed stock.
And so, to most of the people that buy garlic from you, are they trying to sell it as a culinary use, or are they trying to kind of do the same thing that you're doing and sell it as seed typically? Do you know?
So most people that buy garlic from us are just home gardeners. So they're buying it and then planting it in their own gardens at home. We do have some nursery centers that buy it from us at a wholesale price and then resell it in their stores, such as Zamzows up in Boise. They buy several, well, a couple thousand pounds usually a year, and then they resell it to their clientele. We also have people that are like homesteaders or market gardeners that buy it and then grow it in their gardens and then sell it at the farmers markets the following year.
Okay. Do you have very many people that try to sell like, large amounts, bulk, like to wholesalers or anything like that? Or, do you know that of any of your customers that like maybe sell to a lot of restaurants or anything along those lines?
I don't think that they buy it from us and then sell it to restaurants. I don't think the price point would be there for them. We did have one company last year that they were a distributor for grocery stores, and they were going to be buying several thousand pounds from us, but when it came down to it, they decided not to, because they kept telling us, we had agreed on a price, and then they came back in at the very end and said, nope, we're not paying you that price. We're going to pay you this price. And even though we had talked about it, I didn't have a contract, so that was a lesson learned. Always have a contract.
Yeah.
And but that's the thing they told us. They said there's just not a profit here for us, and that is true. You wouldn't be able to buy our garlic at our prices and then resell it. There's just not that profit margin there. That's why a lot of the people that are market gardeners will grow it and then sell it.
That's kind of what I was thinking, more along those lines, as if, you knew of anybody that was buying from you, growing, and then trying to sell to like restaurants or anything like that.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. So there are a few people. I had a guy in North Carolina last year buy a couple, I want to say 500 or 600 pounds. He grew a bunch of it, and then that's what he does. He goes to farmers markets. He sells to restaurants. He also has a website and sells seeds. He was starting out. He'd been growing for a few years, but he was just expanding his garden as well. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Has there been any like systems or tools that has, kind of helped you run your business smoothly? I mean, it's a little bit of there's not a lot of technology, I would imagine, in the actual process, but you're still selling online. So, I mean, there's a lot of, things that come into play as far as that goes. I'm just curious, like, have you found any specific tools that have really helped you in this business?
I try to find tools. My husband's always telling me to figure it out. So, that's what I'm always trying to do. So like we start our pre-orders in April and we don't start shipping until September. We also don't even harvest until July. So when we start our pre-orders, we're guesstimating what our yield's going to be versus last year's. But everything's changing because it's a farm and you never know what your yield's going to be from year to year. So I'm real conservative when I put in my inventory on my website for pre-orders. When we harvest, I look at what I've already sold versus what it looks like I have, and I'll take stuff off, like I have right now, a couple of my varieties off the website, because until I get it cleaned and weighed, I don't know exactly what I have. So that's difficult. I'm just trying to always base stuff on years prior, but again, everything changes. So that I'm trying to get better with Excel spreadsheets, and I have people that we use for our products as far as like our boxes and bags and stuffing for the boxes and labels, all that kind of stuff. I have information spreadsheets on that, but most of it's just out in the fields, so it's kind of hard to figure that out.
And as far as out in the field goes, what type of tools do you guys use? Do you do most of it, manually? Do you have any equipment that, for processing, that sort of thing?
Yeah. We have one tractor. It's a small tractor. It's 70 horsepower, I think. And then we have so Jeff does all of the field work. He does all the plowing, planting, We do the cover crops, the disking, all that stuff, but we do it all with that one little tractor, so it takes a long time to do it because our implements that we use are not very large. So we do have a garlic planter that we got our second year because the very first year we started, we planted a half an acre and it took us 4 days and there was 4 of us and we were by the end crawling around like army crawls, pulling ourselves with our arms because our bodies were so sore and
You
it
did it
just
all
took
by hand?
forever. Huh?
You did it all by hand?
We did it all by hand that first year. So the next year we bought a planter and we actually bought it from Lithuania and had it shipped over. And that took several months, going through customs, having it built and shipped. It was shipped on an actual ship. So then we had the planter. We have an undercutter for when we harvest. So we hook that to the tractor and it just goes under the soil, under the roots and lifts them. And then we manually pull each bulb and hang it up in our cure room.
Okay.
So that's all done manually. We 2 years ago bought a little cultivator that goes on the tractor for weeding, and it has tine weeders and finger weeders. So we use that, but we still have to go through with a hoe and pull out weeds by hand every single season. I think we went through 5 different times by hand this year, in addition to all the tractor work, because we don't use any chemicals on our garlic at all. So we just, trying to keep up with the weeds is a full-time job.
Yeah, interesting. Is garlic very susceptible to pests?
Not
It's
really.
fairly resistant, right?
Sorry, there's my dogs. No, so there is a garlic, oh, I can't even remember what it's called, but it's new to the United States and it's back east. It hasn't made its way out west yet. And I don't believe it's to the south either. I think it's mostly in like the northeast, but the garlic mite, I believe. That I'm not sure what causes it or where it came from or exactly what it does. But the only other pest that I know that would affect garlic is thrip, which is an onion mite, and it usually comes on like in July or August. So by the time we have it out of the ground is when it's starting to come on, so it hasn't affected us, but we do check. It's just a little tiny, little black thing that goes in between the leaves. I've seen it on onions before, but I haven't seen it on any of the garlic. And then as far as pests in the field, like mice, they don't like garlic, so they pretty much stay out of there. We get on our farm, we get deer and moose and all sorts of random things, coyotes we have out there. Nothing seems to bother it.
Yeah, I've heard that, planting garlic around your garden can actually help deter other pests. I do that. I don't know
Right.
a ton, but it seems good in theory, so.
They say it's really good for strawberries. Yeah, planting it next
Interesting.
to strawberry bushes. Again, the problem is you're going to harvest your garlic in, June, July, August, depending on where you're at. So you are going to have some protection there for a while, but after a while, you're going to pull your garlic out probably.
Unless you just leave it in the ground to just be a protection
Right. Right. Yep.
So, going back to just the manual aspect of this, if somebody didn't have any machinery and they wanted to, maybe get into this to grow a little bit of garlic to maybe sell to local restaurants, what do you think reasonably somebody could plant? Like how much space could they plant and do it all manually?
Oh, I'd say you could easily do a half an acre manually. So as far as spacing goes, I've seen people that have had like plywood that they'll put little dowels on and then use that as a spacer. So they'll put that on the ground, step on it so it makes all the holes in their ground so that their spacing's perfect. I've seen people that have just made rows with a hoe and then plant it manually and then cover it. I've seen people grow garlic in boxes and also in pots. So really just depends on how much space you have. You can make anything work. And there is definitely a market. There's going to be a market for garlic no matter what, even if you're just selling it to your neighbors and friends. But there are a lot of people that grow garlic that will grow it and sell to local restaurants or make powders or garlic flakes or whatever and process the garlic after they've instead of selling the garlic as garlic, they'll process it into salts or powders or anything like that and then sell that.
Or maybe ferment into that black garlic. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, we have a black garlic fermenter.
Oh, cool.
I tried. You can do it with a rice cooker, and I tried doing that one year, but my timing was wrong, and it got so hard. So I ended up buying one of the black garlic. I've never sold black garlic. Usually, we just make it and then use it ourselves. I just don't know how to package it properly, but I know there are people that will
Yes.
package it and sell it. And that black. So if somebody did buy garlic from us and then had the fermenter, the black garlic fermenter, they could sell it and then make a profit because there is a niche market for that black garlic as well. There's just not a lot of it made.
Interesting. So what do you think somebody could make with like a half an acre if they, bought seed garlic? Do you have any idea what they can maybe reasonably expect to be able to make on that?
Yeah. I would say, well, depending on if you can get it all sold, 20 to 25,000 on a half an acre, probably.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. And is there anything that you guys kind of do? It seemed like, when I talked to you before, you had kind of a list of some places that buy like wholesale and bulk and that sort of thing. Is there any kind of support that you guys kind of give for people that, are wanting to buy garlic to do something to, turn around and sell to different places and that sort of thing?
Interested in becoming a guest, sponsoring episodes, or have suggestions for the show? Check out our website at BizGrowMojo.com. Also, you can sign up for our newsletter where you'll get updates about upcoming episodes and guests, special offers, insights and breakdowns from previous episodes, as well as marketing and business tips you can apply to your own business. Go to BizGrowMojo.com/newsletter.
I have a lot of information. I'll send people information anytime they ask. I'm not, I'm never trying to be like, no, I'm not going to tell you my secrets because you can look up anything online. But
True.
no, I walk people through any process that they have, any questions that they have. We send a 2-page instruction with every order so that they can plant it. And then, like I said, we have our blog posts, and then I send out information about remembering to feed your garlic or fertilize your garlic, water your garlic, when to harvest your garlic, what to look for before harvesting. But too early because the bulb actually produces the last 4 to 6 weeks it's in the ground. But if you leave it in the ground too long, then it starts to get too big and the papers will disintegrate and it won't store as long. So there's a timing. And yeah, I give people any information they need or want. And we're still learning too. It's like every year we're like, okay, we've got this. And then it's like, no, I have no idea what's going on. So I'm always looking it up too. I have also found that the garlic farmers in the country, and I follow a lot of garlic farmers in the United States, Canada, Australia, and everybody, if you have questions, they're always there to help you. I've never found anyone that's not willing to answer or help with things that they've experienced as well.
Yeah. So you're saying that, most of the garlic farmers you're aware of are kind of smaller operations. Why is that? Is it difficult to do at a large scale?
It's because it's very hands-on, and if you're not willing to hire help, you're not going to expand. And the process of harvesting, planting, and cleaning the garlic. Cleaning takes the longest. That's our longest process that we do, and we have a group of people that are just like subcontractors, that do farm work for a lot of different farms, a lot of potato farms. Our cleaning process is kind of when they have downtimes doing other stuff, so we can get a bunch of people out. But for harvest, we have 20 to 25 people helping us harvest. We have about that many people helping us clean. And then planting, because we have our planter, we just have to have one extra person. It takes 3 of us to plant, even with that planter. But that's the reason most people stay small, is because they're like, I can do this. It's just like you said before. I'm looking for something as an extra little bit of income. But when you're growing it and then putting all that cash out, it's like, well, that doesn't do me any good. Didn't give me extra money when I'm having to put all this money out. So that's why I think most of them stay small. And then, like I said, most people go to farmers markets. A lot of the garlic farmers that I follow don't even have websites. They just go to farmers markets, and some of them will go to 4 or 5 farmers markets a week. So they can sell it. They'll sell out of their garlic. It's just, do you have the time to do all that?
Yeah. How much time would somebody have to expect to kind of put into this if they had a half an acre? I mean, is that something that, can be done pretty easily? Is just kind of a side project and full time still, or is that like, no, you're going to be working quite a bit more than that?
You could do a half an acre with a full-time job. So when we first started growing garlic, my husband did a job for, I want to say, the first 3 years that we were growing garlic. So he worked full time. I would work during the winters, and then during the spring, summer, fall, during shipping, I did pretty much all the shipping. He would help when he had his days off, and did most of the weeding myself because it was small, and I could keep up with it on a half an acre. That's what we started with, and yeah, you could do it if you were one person and you had a half an acre and then a full-time job. You'd be tired for sure, but you could still do it if you had somebody else to help you, or like teenagers that could go out and weed or help with harvest. That's one of the main things that with growing garlic at that scale, even at a half an acre, is having a place to cure it. So when you cure it, it can't be in the sun because the sun will start to disintegrate the bulb. It sunburns, and then it won't store as long, and it'll get soft spots. So having the place to cure it out of the sun with airflow is key. So as long as, if you had a shop, if you have a really large garage, you know how to organize everything really well. So that's doable for sure.
Probably got to keep it from freezing as well, I would imagine.
Yeah. So it's harvested in the summertime, so you don't really have to worry about it freezing until winter. When we first started, we had a garage it was a shop, and it was an open bay shop, that we had it hanging in with tarps on the side so that the sun didn't get to it. That was our first year. Then we moved to an old dairy barn that was, slats in it. So we still had some canvas tarps around so it could breathe, but the sun wasn't getting to it. And that was a great cure room. It was just an old dairy barn. I'm talking from like the 30s. So it was basically just stalls where they brought the cows in and hand milked them. And now we have a Quonset that we had to insulate because it got too hot in there. So we had to insulate it and then put vents in it. And we have dehumidifiers. Even though we're in a very low humidity area, we have to have dehumidifiers in there and dump our buckets several times a day. But now that we have it's insulated, and so it stays cool in the summer, it stays warmer in the winter. We have heaters for that. If we don't sell all our garlic, we can still work out of it. But for years, at the end of October, we would bring it into our house and still package and sell from there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Does your house smell like garlic?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes. For years we did that. And, My son doesn't live with us anymore, but he was a teenager. He was in high school, and we would stack it in his room. We'd bring tables in and just stack garlic. And we were like, we'd work out of the kitchen, but that's where we would store it, was in the bedroom. So yeah, it would smell like garlic every year. But yeah, I'm glad we don't have to do that anymore, but it was fun.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. So, are there any hoops that somebody would have to jump through if they were, interested in getting into, doing this as a way to make some extra income or something like that? Is there any like, certifications, with the, any agricultural government, licensing or anything like that? Like, what kind of hoops would somebody have to jump through to be able to sell, to restaurants and things like that?
Okay. Well, you should look at your local requirements in the state, because Idaho does require inspections. We have to fill out paperwork every year. There's a bunch of forms that we have to fill out. Um, we also have to have a nursery license to sell because we sell seed stock. So we go through that process every year. If you're selling it to restaurants, GAP certification is pretty good, which is good agricultural practices, and restaurants or stores, grocery stores, really like to see that kind of certification. Um, the main thing is to find, you could contact your state Department of Agriculture, and they'll let you know if there's anything specific to that state. Like I said, we're in allium quarantine in 21 counties, so basically southern Idaho. And so those counties have to have the inspections so we have to have the inspections before we harvest our garlic. So they come out and check everything in the field and look for any signs of disease. They'll dig up some bulbs, look at bulbs, and then filling out all the paperwork with them. So I would say us in Idaho and Malheur County in Oregon, and then there's a couple counties in Washington State that are pretty strict, but for the most part, I don't think you would necessarily need the certification. If you are selling seed stock, you might have to get a nursery license, but the Department of Ag in each state would be able to tell people what
Okay.
exactly they need.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know for sure. So as far as, just doing this business and, running this farm, how has that changed your life? How has that impacted your life?
Well, working with your spouse all the time is a challenge sometimes. So it's, working together, living together, and we live out in the middle of nowhere. Our closest neighbor is over 2 miles away from us. So
Wow.
it's really just the two of us and our animals. I mean, it's a great lifestyle, but I don't know, you have to be able to work with the people that you live with, if that's what you're doing with the people you live with.
Mhm.
Um, we also have had, we're so busy during the summer, the spring, summer, and fall, that we can't really work an outside job at this point. But there are years that we'll go out and get jobs in the winter time just to still
Offset.
supplement our income. Yeah.
Do you feel like you've achieved success in this business, and what does that look like for you?
I think we have. We're still looking to grow. We work all year long, and by the end of the year, we basically paid all of our bills. So it's not, we're not saving any money at this point. We're hoping to, eventually. But we were lucky because we were able to buy our farm. When we were looking to buy a farm, we were wanting to buy a farm of between 50 and 100 acres. That was our goal. But the hardest part was finding the land. We looked all over
Mhm.
the United States, but we decided to stay here because we started in Idaho, and we were like, okay, we know the climate. We know we're not going to have to deal with that humidity that they have in the South,
Yeah.
storms, all that different stuff. So we decided to stay local. But finding a farm was difficult. And then we decided, we're going to probably end up finding some land, but not having a house, and then having to live in a travel trailer for a couple years. We were just lucky enough that when we did find the acreage we were looking for, it did have a house and it had shops. And that was the main thing we were looking for, was the shops, because we needed an area to cure the garlic. We would have lived in a travel trailer if need be, but luckily we didn't have to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of a bonus, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Would you say this business has given you like more freedom and opportunities in your personal and professional life?
It's definitely given us more freedom in the winter time, but during the season, we haven't even been able to go camping the last couple of years because there's something always going on.
Oh,
Something, like my husband right now, he's been trying to get the cover crop down that we had planted last fall. It got a little too big because equipment broke down, and we had to buy new equipment. Now it's so high, and he's trying to till it in and disc it in and get prepared for planting cover crop again this next fall. So it's trying to decipher what we're going to do next year. Like, are we going to have a green chop come in from a dairy? Do we mow it down earlier? So all that kind of stuff. There's days when we have plenty of time, but we're pretty much working 7 days a week at this point during the summer.
yeah. Amazing though to be able to start a farm in this day and age, because it seems like that's increasingly hard to start if you haven't inherited a lot of land, to actually get into. So it's impressive to see somebody, doing that and not necessarily need secret to do it and be able to make it work.
Right. Yeah. So like I said, when I started, there was a few things we looked into when we first started, when we were looking for a niche market. We looked into lavender. We looked into hops. I guess a lot of people have gotten into hops, and somebody told me that the market had crashed, but I don't know how true that is. We looked at doing greenhouses with tomatoes, lettuces, hemp. Hemp is a thing that we looked into. A lot of equipment's needed for that, and hemp had just barely come into Idaho, and apparently there was a lot of restrictions about that. And we got our loan because we had been farming for a few years before we got the loan for our farm, so we got it through the FSA. Well, there was even restrictions on buying property and getting a loan through the FSA. So depending on where you're getting your loan from, that would be hard. So you have to kind of look at all that stuff. But the hardest part, I would say, was finding the small acreage of land, because all the big farmers can, they have the cash and they have the ability to gobble it up. And the people that are looking for small farms don't have, it's so expensive. And then just to be able to be like, I just need a little time. And people, if somebody comes in and offers them cash right now, they're more likely to take that. Luckily, we bought our property. The people that owned it, it had been in their family since their grandma. So their grandma had it, then the grandson had it, and they wanted somebody that was going to live on the land and love the land versus having it be part of a big corporate farm. So that's how we ended up with this one, because it took 9 months for us to close on that loan.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. What would you do differently if you had to start over, if anything?
I probably, well, it's funny because I'm just talking about buying our farm, but I probably would have waited a couple more years to buy the farm.
Okay.
Yeah, just to have a few more years of income before having that large payment. Because if we didn't have the farm payment, we would be able to have some money in the bank, but having that payment doesn't allow for that. So that's again why we have the jobs during the winter time a lot of times, so that we can just kind of buy our food and pay our car payment.
Yeah, yeah. Any advice you would give to listeners that are, considering, taking some land, maybe not at the scale you are, maybe at that scale, maybe less? What's the best advice you think you give to somebody that wants to start to make some income?
I'd say probably start small. A lot of people, I've had people call me every year that say they just want a small garlic farm. They're going to start with 5 acres. And it's like, oh my gosh, you have no idea. Because again, it's so much labor to grow the garlic, not, like you see potatoes, there's all this equipment. And granted, there is also equipment for garlic as well. But until you're to that large scale, it's not feasible to buy all that equipment. So start small, get a market for it, decide how you're going to sell it, whether you're going to process it, or try to sell the seed, or do grocery stores or restaurants. And if that's your model, is to sell it to grocery stores or restaurants, then maybe talk to people and get some contracts before you started growing it, just so you can sell it. Because putting in all that labor and then having all the garlic at the end of the year and not being able to sell it I think would be disheartening.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of work to put into all that, and then let it go to waste for sure.
Right.
Awesome. I really appreciate you diving into the weeds and letting the audience kind of know a little bit about what you're doing and how you're going about it. Where can listeners go to learn a little bit more about you and your business or connect with you?
Okay. Garlic Gods Farm. garlicgods.com is our website. We're on Instagram and Facebook at Garlic Gods, and that's pretty much all I'm at right now. I don't have Twitter or anything else. Still trying to learn how to market myself. So that's a process.
Yeah, right.
But garlicgods.com is the main place to find us.
Okay, great. Any promotions or anything like that listeners should be aware of, or?
If at checkout, if you put Idaho in as a code, you can get, I think it's 15% off.
Oh, cool.
And I did, the Idaho Preferred. We've done their holiday gift box the last few years, so we had a coupon that was in that, and that's where that code came from. But if you would like, I can also, I just started an affiliate this year. It's my first time doing an affiliate. I have one, so I can always set up a code for you as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's talk about that more.
Okay.
I appreciate you coming. It's been really, really interesting to hear your story and how you got going, and hear a little bit more about your business. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the BizGrowMojo podcast with Ryan Amon. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on the BizGrowMojo podcast.